You asked for it and we're stoked to deliver. Today we're gonna teach you how to jump your bike. We've broken this skill down into easy to understand and more importantly, simple to practice steps that are gonna help you take your riding to new heights, literally. And the best part, the steps that we cover in this video to teach you how to jump will translate to any bike and you can apply them to any obstacle you wish to jump. I'm Mike, welcome back to Joy of Bike, and in this video I'm joined by Chase Willie and Matt Cordova to teach you guys how to jump. And you guys are in luck because this guy right here is one of the best dirt jumpers in the world.
So what do you need to learn this skill? Well, first off is your bike of choice. And in true Joy of Bike fashion, we brought out the whole collection of bikes that we have. We really want to show that this is a skill that can be learned on any type of bike that you have and you can have just as much fun with it.
One thing we recommend while learning how to jump is riding with flat pedals.
Just as with learning any new skill, we also recommend wearing a helmet just so you can protect yourself if anything goes wrong.
And lastly, we need a jump to jump. So with that, we recommend something flat or something you can roll on top of.
So the way we see it is there's two ways to leave the ground on a bike: launching and jumping. So what's the difference between the two?
We're identifying launching as just passively riding into the jump, roller, or feature and relying on speed and that feature to do all of the work for you.
Whereas jumping is actively applying force into the obstacle to create momentum that will help us jump in a controlled and repeatable manner.
So is one of these techniques better than the other? Kinda. The dangers of launching is since we're passively riding into the jump, we're really not in control over our bike when we're approaching the jump, in the air, or landing.
However, when it comes to jumping, since we're being active and our body is fully engaged, we're directing the bicycle and it's gonna behave as we tell it to because a bike is an inanimate object. So with all of that out of the way, let's talk about the three things we're gonna cover to teach you how to jump.
Step 1, applying force and accurate speed into the lip.
Step 2, leaving the lip and leveling the bike.
Step 3, identifying the landing zone and practicing.
Before we start leaving the ground, let's identify a few parts of the jump itself. We've chosen to teach this tutorial at a bike park and for a good reason. Most of the jumps you find at a bike park are built very well, and with proper technique, you're gonna be able to get over these things with no problems at all.
So to kick it off, where I'm standing is called the flat bottom. And we wanna do a few things here before we get to the jump. First off, we wanna make sure that we are riding in a very neutral riding position, which means most of our weight is on our feet over our bottom bracket, not over our hands and not way off the back, behind the back wheel. Second, if we are taking a few pedal cranks into the jump, we wanna make sure that at least 5 feet before the jump, we stop pedaling and have our feet level and parallel with the ground.
After the flat bottom, we have the loading zone, which is on the lip itself. This is the section where we're going to apply force or pump into the lip, and this is gonna help us jump further or jump higher.
At the top of the lip, we have the pop point. This zone is where we want our torso to be perpendicular with the ground and we'll begin to leave the lip. To make jumping as easy as possible, we want to make sure you use the entire lip, making sure both tires leave the top.
Next up is the case pad. So we've chosen this particular jump because it has this nice flat surface on top of the jump that we can land on. So when you're identifying a jump to practice on, look for something similar like this, where there's no repercussions if you come up a little short.
One of the most important parts of the jump itself is going to be the gap. If you're not familiar with what that term is, it's basically the distance between the top of the lip and the top of the landing. This is the area that we need to clear to successfully jump the jump.
Last but certainly not least, the landing. So we picked this jump to learn on because the landing is nice and mellow, which will make practicing way more enjoyable.
First things first, as a beginner in jumping, we want to start to identify the speed and the force necessary to clear the jump. And we're going to do this by actually riding over the jump without jumping it. So we want you to take a few laps on the jump that you've chosen and just ride over it. Don't try to jump it yet. Just start to identify that loading zone and just roll over the top and down the backside. So what this is gonna do is give us a really safe way to start identifying where in the lip we wanna start applying force. So we can start feeling where the lip is gonna start pushing back on us, which is right where we wanna start pushing back on the lip, which is a skill called pump. We have identified pump and covered that in its own little video that you can watch right here if you need to brush up on that or if it's a new skill for you. But here, applying it to jumping, it's really gonna be a skill that's gonna take our jumping to that next level. So where does the loading zone start? Well, if you've taken a few laps over it, you can probably start to feel it, but it's right around here, right where you can start feeling the lip pushing force back into you. And what we wanna do here is push force back into it with our arms and legs. Mike actually brought up a really good point that this is kind of like a game of tug of war, but instead of pulling with the opponent, we're pushing back into the opponent. So if you can apply equal amount of force into the lip that the lip is pushing into you, you're gonna have a really nice balanced ride that's gonna send you exactly how you want to off of the top of the jump. So our body position when approaching the loading zone shouldn't be very surprising if you've watched any of our other videos. We're gonna stay very neutral on the bike with most of our weight over the bottom bracket. And as we feel that force start to be applied to us, we're just gonna use our arms and legs to apply that force back into the jump. If you're doing this correctly, you're really gonna feel most of the weight and the force going through your feet. It'll start to go wrong if you're leaning too far forward on the bike and you feel all of the weight in your hands, or if you're leaning too far back and you feel like you're pulling back on the handlebars. This neutral riding position over the bottom bracket is gonna be that sweet spot, not just for jumping, but for literally any other bike skill.
As we begin to reach the top of the jump, as we're applying force into the lip from that central position on the bike, we're gonna find ourselves in essentially a standing position with our torso perpendicular to the ground. Our main goal while we're applying force and reaching the pop point of the jump is to try to use the entirety of the lip. By this, I mean we want our front tire and back tire to ride all the way to the top of the lip. And the reason for this is because if we're not doing that, we're gonna be exiting lower and making jumping that gap way more difficult for ourselves. Now, as you start leaving the top of the lip, exiting that pop point, if you find yourself getting pitched forward, it's probably due to a couple of reasons. The first one being you're leaving the lip a little too early and the back end is staying on and kicking you forward. The second one being you may be trying to level the bike out while your back end is still on the lip. But if you're finding yourself getting pitched backwards on the bike, there's a couple of reasons for that as well. First one being you may not be putting enough pump or force into the lip as you're traveling up it. And the second thing being your body weight may be too far backwards as you begin to travel up the lip. After both of your tires have cleared the top of the lip, this is where we're gonna begin to start leveling the bike out. This is the same fundamental motion that is applied to the bunny hop when you reach the peak. We're gonna start bringing our knees to our chest and pushing the handlebars out in unison. Nailing this timing can take a lot of practice, so don't get discouraged. And knowing how to bunny hop isn't necessarily required, but it's certainly going to help when it comes to leveling out the bike in the air. So if you're curious or looking to learn how to bunny hop or just want to brush up on your skills, we've got a video on that that really details how to bunny hop, and we'll put that down in the description below.
Quick pro tip.
But before we get to that, this episode's brought to you by Traction Coffee.
If you're looking to get more boost or height out of your jump, this is where it happens. So the secret here is to get a nice pump going into the lip, use the entirety of the lip, and as you're exiting, pull the bars into your lap, and it's gonna keep your bike vertical for as long as possible. This movement will direct your momentum up instead of out. However, before you apply this skill, you definitely want to make sure you have covered the fundamentals of jumping and being comfortable and secure in the air.
So what happens after we've leveled out the bike? Well, we need to prepare to land by dropping the landing gear or re-extending our legs to absorb the impact of the landing. Now the goal here is to create a really nice, smooth, continuous arc through the entire time we're in the air and land with both tires on the ground at the same time. As always, please remember that there is no easy button here. The only thing that's gonna make this easier is good old-fashioned practice.
So the reason why we're trying to land with both tires at the same time is gonna help us pump the landing. And pumping the landing is very important because after we evolve into jumping more than one jump and going into a jump line, this is gonna eliminate us having to pedal between jumps.
At this point, I think it's also important to note that while you're learning how to jump, you're probably going to land back tire first in the beginning. As long as you're riding the bike in a central position and staying there while you're landing, you're gonna be more than okay. Learning how to land both tires at the same time takes a lot of practice, so don't beat yourself up while you're learning. You may notice more advanced riders landing front tire first, and the reason that they're doing this is to maximize pump for the next obstacle to come. Keep in mind while you're watching these guys that this is a byproduct of thousands and thousands of hours of practice. Well, that's that. We had an absolute blast hanging out with you guys, talking about jumping and hopefully helping you guys begin to master the skill of jumping. But the most important thing with this skill, aside from safety, is making sure that you're having fun with it, because that's what this is all about. As you begin to approach your newfound love of jumping at your local bike park, the skate park, or at your local trail, remember to approach new obstacles with a level head and a sense of respect, because this stuff can get pretty gnarly. So just take your time, be patient with it, and again, have as much fun as you can. Now, with all that being said, please let us know down in the comments if you guys have any other questions regarding jumping, or if there's any other types of jumping skills that you would like us to cover here on the channel. If you enjoyed hanging out with us today or learned something new in this video, cruise down and hit that like button. If you want to see more content just like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. And before you go, I would love to hear what your goal for jumping is down in the comments below. As always, thank you guys so much for riding with us. It's always an incredible time. We'll catch you on the next one. Later.
And if you're looking to brush up on some skills that will really help with jumping, check out this video right here to learn a little bit more on how to pump your bike. And check out right here to learn how to bunny hop effectively. These are two great skills that apply directly into jumping. See you guys next time, and until then, enjoy this little montage of us jumping all of our bikes.
What?